What is the scope that you see in Tamil Nadu?
In a democracy, there's always space for different voices, as if Muslim community is some sort of a captive population for these so-called secular parties.
How Dravidian parties have dealt with the Muslim community, be it Anna or be it Karunanidhi or Jayalalitha or even EPS.
They have done tremendous work for India's democracy.
Though the AIMIM has decided to contest only 3 seats in the upcoming Tamil Nadu elections, it's triggered quite a debate about the entry of a new party into the Tamil Nadu spectrum. I'm going to speak about the same with Hyderabad MP and the AIMIM chief Asaduddin Owaisi. Thank you, sir, for speaking to the News Minute. Do you think there is space for MIM in Tamil Nadu, considering there are several Muslim parties who are there to speak up for the Muslim community?
You see, in a democracy, there's always space for different voices. And in a democracy, and especially in the present environment, the political ecosystem which we're living in our country, you require a genuine political voice which represents the Muslim minorities and the Dalits and the weaker sections. Our track record is there for everyone to see. We have been consistently opposing the BJP from 2014 onwards, and even before that. Whatever legislations which have been brought by the Narendra Modi-led government, we have opposed it, we have called it, genuinely we believe it was unconstitutional, anti-people. Whereas the other political parties and other political parties who are with the other so-called secular parties, they have a very muted response, or the Congress supports the BJP and their supporting allies oppose them, but they fight elections together. Now, this is the hypocrisy, this is, this kind of duplicity which is happening. And that is why these political parties are being exposed. End of the day, what you require is that you require consistency in your demands, consistency in your political fight, and no compromise whatsoever as far as issues of constitutional rights are concerned. So on all these 3 points, MIM party has been very consistent, alhamdulillah, and that is why I feel that we have that space is there. We will fight for that space. We will go and request the people of Tamil Nadu. This is what we stand for. They had given us 11,000 votes in Vaniyambadi 5 years ago. We have definitely improved, and I'm sure that this time around our performance will be much better.
So speaking about secular parties, the allegation of again splitting the votes is back in question. The DMK usually gets the Muslim votes and the minority votes. With your entry, do you think the allegation of splitting is again going to take center stage?
You see, I don't want to really answer this question because every interview of mine, this question is asked to me. Splitting of votes, as if Muslim community is some sort of a captive population for these so-called secular parties, that anyone who fights an election and challenges them in a democratic way, they feel insecure and they make this basis allegation. So the question that should be asked is, what about the other castes? What about people from other religions? What about their vote? Why isn't anyone talking about the split in that vote or the consolidation of that vote against other weaker section? So this whole debate is completely wrong. But I'm going to fight elections. I want my candidate to win. I don't fight elections to ensure my opponents win or they lose. For me it is important that my candidate wins, my alliance wins, and that is what we have been doing. This is what we'll try to do.
You have declared that you would be contesting in an alliance with the AMMK. What is the reason why you chose to go with this particular party?
You see, 5 years ago we had contested on our own in Tamil Nadu Assembly elections in 3 or 4 different places. So this time around, in last 4 years, in many assembly constituencies of Tamil Nadu, our organization was strengthened. We had formed our booth committees. We have held many meetings over there. And I had personally gone and addressed many public meetings, including the CAA protest and other meetings in Chennai and in other places wherever our organization got strengthened. So there was this decision made by our Tamil Nadu party president, led by Mr. Vakil, that there are some parties approaching them, and we also are interested in having an alliance with those political parties, and so that we can jointly contest national elections. So I said, okay, you take your decision based on what is good for us and how it will help us. So that is why this discussion started. Then there were talks initially with DMK. In fact, that they had approached the MIM party about an alliance with MIM. Some initial talks were held, and then unfortunately that fiasco happened, wherein an invitation was extended, and then later on it was denied by the DMK. So I would just like to say that on this particular issue, I'll be speaking at large in detail to the people of Tamil Nadu. And then, we have our party members, including the president and the other post holders, had a lot of meetings with Mr. Dinakaran. And they finalized that, okay, we'll contest 3 assembly seats. We had only asked 3 assembly seats. And I'm very thankful that Mr. Dinakaran was kind enough to accept it. And so now this alliance has happened, and we'll jointly contest in this forthcoming assembly elections in Tamil Nadu.
So the Tamil Nadu elections has always been about the Dravidian parties, the DMK and the AIADMK. A third alternate front, what is the scope that you see in Tamil Nadu?
There is a huge scope for a third political alternative in the politics of Tamil Nadu, and one cannot deny that, because the biggest example of that is the by-election victory of Mr. Dinakaran from a very politically prestigious assembly seat. That in itself tells you that there is a huge vacuum and a scope, and we definitely would like to, jointly with Mr. Dinakaran and other allies who are going to join or who are already there, to grab that political space. Yes, traditionally that has been the case, I accept, but at the present moment, there is a huge vacuum, there is a political space, and normally such political vacuum and space arises when you don't have those great leaders who had served with a lot of laurels served the people of Tamil Nadu. And that is why we feel that this is the opportune time for a third political alternative to emerge. And I hope and expect and pray that the people of Tamil Nadu will bless us this political third alternative led by Mr. Dinakaran. And we'll try our best to win their hearts, to win their minds, so that, our dreams, our objectives are fulfilled.
So the DMK's backtracking from an alliance with the AIMIM came as a surprise, because they were very keen on an alliance, and we're hearing this was because the other Muslim parties were disgruntled with the entry of the AIMIM. What, according to you, can be the reason why they are unhappy or insecure about AIMIM's entry?
Well, this question should be asked to those people who feel insecure, who feel threatened by the entry of AIMIM in Tamil Nadu politics. I cannot speak for their insecurities, but I can definitely say that we will definitely try to give a good fight. We will try our level best, inshallah, that we win these elections. Not only our candidates, but this whole front which is being led by Mr. Dinakaran. So let us see what happens, because I don't want to speak for them, but definitely I will definitely speak about this whole issue and how minorities of Tamil Nadu require a genuine political leadership. On these points, I'll be speaking in detail in the assembly elections and in the public meeting which is going to be held in Chennai on the 12th of March.
So you have contested in the north states, and you've seen how there is a huge difference in the northern Muslims and Muslims in Tamil Nadu. How is it the polarization levels are different, and they are probably at a better level than their northern counterparts? So how is it going to be? How different is it going to be for the AIMIM in Tamil Nadu?
See, one important point which I feel that people are not understanding and are not able to appreciate, that there is a great churning and desire among the young Muslim youth. And what is that desire, what is that change which they want, is that they want their own political leadership to emerge. And they feel that in this present times which we are living, we have tried all the experiments, their elders have tried all the experiments, but has that led to the number one, political empowerment of the community? Has that led to discrimination being stopped? Has that led to opportunism when it comes to the issues? So these are important issues which the present day Muslim youth are facing, and they want this thing to happen, they want this change to happen. So to say that polarization, because of polarization, MIM is emerging, no, MIM is emerging and MIM will continue to grow because that is what the Muslim youth are demanding. This is what they want to see. And we are saying that yes, this is what has been the message of MIM for last 63 years. So to say that polarization is happening there or not happening here, polarization is everywhere. Polarization is complete everywhere. So to say that there is no polarization in X region of India or Y region of India, there is definitely polarization. And that is why you see, because of polarization only, these political parties don't want an independent political Muslim voice to emerge, which is the necessity, which is, I feel it is very important to strengthen our democracy. Because Indian democracy, unfortunately, has now become a majoritarian form of democracy. That has never been the intention and dreams of our forefathers. They have always envisaged, they have always dreamed that India would be a representative or a participative form of democracy, which has not been true, their dreams have been shattered. And that is why you see that everyone wants a power basically so that in a very majoritarian form of way, whether this area or that area, there is uniformity as far as this is happening everywhere.
So what is your view about how Dravidian parties have dealt with the Muslim community, be it Anna or be it Karunanidhi or Jayalalitha or even EPS? At least for optics, we see that they've always embraced the Muslim community. Do you agree with this, or what do you feel is the truth at the ground level?
You know, all those leaders who have departed, who are not in this world, I have highest respect for them as a student of politics. I feel that all these three leaders who are no more in this world, they have done tremendous work for India's democracy. They have done tremendous work for the development of Tamil Nadu. They have invented, they have brought out schemes which no one in India had ever thought about at that time. And later on, those schemes are now being implemented in different states. That itself shows that how tall and visionary leaders they were. But coming back to your first question, you had asked me that what about, is there a space for third front? Yes, there's a space for third front, because those tallest leaders had a different approach. They were not only magnanimous, but they had this large vision of carrying each and every one. And yes, they have definitely served the people of Tamil Nadu, every section of people of Tamil Nadu, that I cannot deny.
So what, according to you, is the biggest issue of the Tamil Muslim?
There are many issues. It cannot be only one issue.
Can you name some?
But the important issue is political empowerment. having your own political voice, having your own independent political voice which is not controlled by other political parties, which will not stop you from raising genuine issues related to whether it's Muslim minorities or Dalits, which will ensure that you speak in unison. You cannot say something in Delhi and speak something in Chennai. You know, you have to have a consistent demand. And that is the most important issue. Discrimination is still an issue. There is huge caste discrimination when it comes to the Dalit community. There are many instances where Muslims are being unnecessarily harassed in different criminal cases. They are put behind bars for years. So these are issues. Even the development, civic development issues are very important. So all in all, we'll be presenting all these issues in the election campaign. And our people have already been working on these issues. They have been meeting people, and I'm sure that this will also become a part of what we'll be asking the people of Tamil Nadu when they go out and vote for our alliance and our MIM candidates.
Sir, we have seen AIMIM now actively entering Tamil Nadu politics. In the future, will we also see you go down to the south even more? Will you be entering the Kerala political scenario as well?
No. I have consistently said that in Kerala, the Tangal family, I have a lot of respect for them. They head the IUML, and my best wishes to them. I hope that they do well only in Kerala Assembly elections.
Okay, and one question about the West Bengal elections as well. Have you decided your strategy? All eyes on what the AIMM is going to do?
Give us 3-4 days time. We'll definitely tell every one of you, your fraternity, media, what exactly you are going to do in West Bengal.
One last question to you, sir. A lot of people are also asking why can't the AIMIM confine to Telangana where it has its stronghold? How do you respond to such people? And in Telangana as well, we see largely that it is in Hyderabad that AIMIM's presence is felt. Why not across the state? And what do you respond to people? How do you respond to them about confining MIM to Telangana?
Let me answer your question second part. It is wrong to say that MIM is confined to Hyderabad. We have more than 100 municipal corporators outside of Hyderabad. That in itself clearly shows the strength of MIM. We have more than, I think, the 40-50 members in MPTC panchayat level. We have a vice chairman in various municipalities and in municipal corporation. So that is wrong to say that we are only confined to Greater Hyderabad or Hyderabad city. Secondly, your question's first part, that why shouldn't I confine myself to Telangana? Well, you see, the Indian democracy and the Indian constitution gives me the right to go and fight election anywhere. Now, no one can tell me what I should do in my life. And even they are welcome to come and fight in Hyderabad or any parts of Telangana. No one is stopping them. I will never raise this question. People have come, they have fought against our party, and alhamdulillah, they have seen what happens to them. But to say that you confine here, what is this? Are you some sort of a feudal leader to say this, that this is my territory, that is my territory? You know, this language, when one speaks, it clearly shows their mindset. This language is used by what we call the street thugs, that this street belongs to me. What is this? In a democracy, you cannot tell me what to do, where to fight, not to fight, but if I'm fighting, you should celebrate it, you should welcome it, because it shows that here you have Asaduddin Owaisi who believes in Indian democracy. He's fighting elections to not only, number one, strengthen and to create more confidence in democracy, but I'm asking for my rights. No, you should not come here. You should not. If that is the case, then, this what is India's strength? India's strength is fraternity. It's diversity. Yes, each and every region has a different distinct identity. We celebrate that. But to say that, no, you should not come here, you should not go there, many times this argument, this baseless talk is used against me. But that has not stopped us from going in and contesting elections in a place called Simanchal, which is what, 2,000 kilometers from Hyderabad. So then the people of Simanchal, I'm thankful to them. I'm really grateful to them that they not only welcomed us, but they blessed us. They made our candidates win over there. This is the beauty of Indian democracy. This is how you fight fascism. This is how you fight communalism. This is how you fight for your rights. And I am coming there, or if I go and contest in places apart from Telangana, is because those political parties who are now saying this, who are now saying all these things, are not able to do good work over there. And because of their ineptitude, because of their weaknesses, because of their incapacity and incapability, MIM is going there and will continue to go there.
Okay. So TNM, as you know, has a large readership and audience in Tamil Nadu. What is your appeal to them ahead of the elections? What is your message to them?
Well, our message to the great people of Tamil Nadu is that please give us this alliance and opportunity headed by Mr. Dinakaran. You have for so many years, you have given opportunity to the other two political formations. It is, we request them, we hope that this time around they'll support and bless us this front which is being led by Mr. Dinakaran, so that there is more good work can be done, so that there is more competition in serving the people of Tamil Nadu. There'll be more higher value on the votes of people of Tamil Nadu. And other two political formations don't take people of Tamil Nadu for granted. There must be a fight to uplift the people of Tamil Nadu, to provide more relief to the poor and weaker sections of the Tamil Nadu electorate.
Thank you, sir, for your time. Well, that was the AIMIM chief sharing his ideas, his perspective and his plans ahead of the upcoming elections in Tamil Nadu. Reporting from Hyderabad for the News Minute, Pauluman.